This way, we plumb our building, he drops his brace frame, and now he actually likes us. Before he didn't like us. Now he's like, hey, I come, I do my job in one day, no callbacks, no change orders for him or the GC. He drops his brace frames, we do the connection on the bottom, and then we drop our panels and we go up. So this is some of the stuff we do. Same thing with the staircases. We're probably the only light gauge panel shop that will do the landing until the staircase, you come later. So they'll come and drop and they need to match. Typical balcony, you know, we'll even slope our balconies. This is an interesting thing. I don't know if you can see it, but the joists are going actually this direction because of the bearing walls right here. We flip the design with the beam right here. We bring a joist right here to be within the flatness of the ceiling. But the balcony had I think it was an 8-inch joist into a 10-inch joist with a slope on it. So that's why you see this double joist right here. So this is sloping, coming all the way here. But this one is maintaining the flatness of the ceiling. So you have two challenges, correct? You have a slope, but then you have to have a flat ceiling within the inside. And then we had to go and create this notch that when we drop our panels, needs to wrap around this wall. So the level of tolerance are very tight. This was another challenge when we do our roof trusses. This was a job, this was a timeshare place in Palm Springs. The GC, I don't want to name him, he was behind schedule. We had to do 2 buildings. He was behind on the other building. As we move along, we're like, hey, we're ready. He's like, we're behind schedule. I said, you know, I'm going to start building my trusses. He goes, how can you build your roof when we haven't even poured a slab? I says, we trust our system. So we built all our trusses and we started using all the trades containers to locate our roof trusses while he was pouring the slab. And then our walls came in and we had a match. Because everybody was following our drawings, so we kind of took the lead with our drawings. Something we do is, at this stage, we go with total stations. We laid out everybody. And then everybody's also responsible for doing the layout. But we go and do our own layouts to verify the other trades. The beginning, they don't like it, but at one point, with the tools and the drawings, they actually see us as an ally more than an enemy. I mean, typical job site, you know, I mean, how do you do layouts here? So if you see right here, we lay out the red iron. These blue lines, we're laying out the non-bearing walls, which is not even our scope, but we're laying it, all the plumbing, and we're at the red lines. The red lines is the low-bearing walls. So after all that is done, I don't know if you have the next picture, you get that. So the same picture that we saw before. But you get center pipes, you get hold downs in the center, pipes right there. I mean, you can see that plate in relation to that square of the walls. And then when we drop our panels, we're at 1/16 of an inch. This is a setback of the slab of 1.25 inches because of the 2 layers of drywall. This is an interesting one. I don't know if you guys know a lot about fire ratings, but this is a 2-hour fire rating to a 1-hour fire rating with an offset of 5/8 for the second layer. So that's the level of precision that we draw and we built. This was interesting. You know, brace frames, it's not bad for lateral. It doesn't, I mean, if you see in that building, that's all it takes. So that was my world, the 2D world. I love that. You work with DPR, you work with a lot of technology. Then about 1.5 years, I go to the World Modular, I meet Peter, I walk the modular shows, and I'm like, these guys don't know anything. It's crazy how you go from the $1 billion GCs or $2 billion GCs like Clark and DPR, and then you drop to the $500 million GCs, which is still $500 million in sales. Boom, no brains. They rely on the trades. This is a job that we're doing for a big developer, about 1,500 units. It's the typical affordable housing that is being done in LA. But we took it ourselves and said, you know what? We're gonna invest and learn. So we spent like $60,000 building our own mock-up, and I got all my PMs and engineers building it. So some of these are actually my PMs, they're not even my workers, they're the PMs. So I said, if you're gonna run this job, and if you don't know how to weld, if you don't know how to put a screw, you don't belong in this team. So that's them actually putting the first mock-up together and understanding, you know, the pitch. Right there, they're understanding the pitch of this drain, that once you wrap around that wall at 8 inches, at 3% slope, are you inside the cavity of the modular?
These are our Revit modelers. These are our project managers in-house doing this work.
So first they drew the thing, and then I'm like, okay, now let's see if whatever you drew, you can actually build it. So we spent a lot of time. They enjoy it. They lost a lot of knuckles and things like that, but it was good. We're also migrating into Mexico. We're opening a shop in Mexico. So this is our shop in Mexico. where we're actually, believe it or not, we're doing all the primary structures for the major companies. You talk to, I don't want to give names, but you talk to them and they're like, oh yeah, we're doing it. And I'm like, you're doing it. We're building it for you. So these are some buildings. Actually, those two jobs right there are Engelkirk designs that they're going to be doing here in LA. They're going to be doing it in LA. So we're in the transition of moving our shop in LA to Mexico. By October, we're going to be fully operated over there. We're still going to keep the LA shop, or partial of the LA shop, especially the sales department and the marketing and the installation crew, and start manufacturing everything down south. It's incredible. I mean, I never thought until now that I'm doing it. You buy the materials in the United States. Basically, I have a light gauge call center in Mexico. I grab everything here, I go to Mexico, I use Mexican services or providers, and I ship everything back. The only thing that I'm restricted to is if I miss a screw, and I get a screw from the Mexican market and put them into the modular, now it's an export, so I have to pay taxes. But if I take all the screws from the United States across the border, use their labor, and bring it back, there's nothing. I'm getting modulars from Tijuana down to LA in 4 hours for $800.
And we have our facility in Mexico. It's all approved by the state of California, Housing and Community Development. Did the same thing when I went to China. We created the first state-approved facility in China. So to go to Mexico, it's like, this is easy for us. The other thing that Diego's talking about, I think all of you might really want to hear this, is it's not enough just to know the structural. Your hands are full here, I'm sure. You're staying on the cutting edge of everything structural, but they're integrating the structure, all that framing, all those walls are taking into consideration mechanical, electrical, plumbing. I mean, how many times the structural engineer said, I need a beam here? I said, sorry, we have this major, beautiful, aesthetically pleasing duct that has to come through. And then you've got to create this wild beam to span it all. So when we were talking earlier, I think what's about how architects have to think more like engineers and engineers like architects, it's important to understand the intent of what's behind that architect so that you can help supplement what they're doing. A few people came to us when we first started out and said, listen, we really want to do this work, but all these modular buildings look like minimum security prisons. They're just not for people. You know, they're good for miners and people who work out at man camps, you know, somewhere in the mountains of Peru, right? And so we've then started to create our own standard modules, and you'll start to see them combined here. And you know, we focus on multifamily housing.
Yeah, but some of the interesting thing here that I always say is that, so this is some of the Peter's designs where you're going to see is a simple prototype that copy-pastes itself. And if you look at the building, just like this, there's nothing, correct? There's really nothing to that building when you look at it. But when you start emphasizing the fact of the architecture and we start creating this ornamental staircase that just emphasizes the end of the building, everything else in between, it starts to disappear. But that's where the profit and the money is. If you get these modulars to be a cut and paste and you start emphasizing some of the little details of architecture that will not increase the cost, you're actually making that magic where the architect wants to be an engineer and the engineer wants to be an architect.
I don't want to be a structural engineer. I don't, but I need to understand what they're doing. You know, he sees me. I have to know what y'all are thinking. I can't do the calcs all day long, but I can understand them. And once I understand your palette and what makes you create something that's incredible, all I need is just a little working knowledge of that. And I do the same thing with the MEPs. And when we come together, you're going to find this entire integrated system. Okay. That's why we call it this productized result, because it's a product. Like they don't send you the cover of your phone, the dial pad, it's some little chip inside, and you put it all together, right? It comes as a finished product, and it is expected to operate, to work.
Yeah. But as an engineer, you know, you want to line up your walls, you want to make sure your spans are the same, you want to have enough load-bearing walls. So, but architecture is very pleasing the moment you start mixing the two needs, you know? And that's what this building is.
And we do it the good old-fashioned way, you know? There's sketches, they go back and forth, and we do the same thing. Even we redline things with the structural engineer, they send it back. Before you all got here, Diego was going through our latest structural engineering solution that came back, and he's questioning the size of the studs and all that stuff. And we're from a world of high-end residential is where I started. So my level of detailing is keen to create things that are beautiful, that are well detailed, that look God's in the details, so like somebody really cared. And I stopped working in this world because I think I did a 22,000 square foot house for a bachelor. and he had a ballroom and an 8-car garage underground and bowling alleys. And I said, this is so excessive, this is crazy. And I had some knowledge, and I said, I think I can help people who really need it as opposed to the folks who just want to, show off whatever they're doing. So our level of detailing and understanding is carried over into our affordable housing project. So our big challenge is to make something, create something that's going to improve your quality of life. That's what it's about at the end of the day. Right? That's why I ask you all to really try to understand what the architect is doing, because if it's just purely about shelter, I think that's kind of short-sighted. We've all been to buildings where we go, I don't even want to go in this building, right? Not because it'll fall down, it's just scary. You get in and even the lighting, it's all bad. And then we've been to other places where it kind of enlightens you. This is a pleasant place, I like this. So it's a pretty simple distinction that you can make. So we took this project on because we weren't going to get any work for a year. We said, let's take on this custom project with a gentleman down here in Temecula. And then after 3 months, we got our first big project. We didn't expect that to happen for a year. So we were doing the multifamily stuff. And then there's some of the interior detailing. That will be a steel staircase. But all that level of detailing goes into our units. Real quickly, these bathrooms, if you're familiar with construction, there's tar, there's what they call a hot mop, and it takes 5 days to get this son of a gun approved. They put water in it to make sure it doesn't leak, okay? We use a shower pan and a material called FIBO, F-I-B-O. It's a tongue and groove marine grade plywood with a beautiful finish on. When it comes together, it has a micro joint. You cannot see it. And it's beautiful. And it costs more than the tile. But it doesn't cost more than the tile and the labor and all the time that you lose by doing it the traditional way. So sometimes all of these solutions are already out there, right? So you have to look beyond the norm. And then now we're creating a palette of different floor plans and studios and different types of building uses. And this is what we do, our growth part. This is who we work with. Now, this doesn't happen often. Usually the architect has this huge ego and says, okay, you're going to work for me, right? But we actually work for other architects who want to do what we're doing. But they don't want to spend the time, go through the R&D, because it's a real commitment. But they're slowly making the transition. They design their building, then they come to us and we try to straighten it all out for them, right? The modular fabricators are coming to us because there's incredible facilities put together, and we are the white label behind a few different modular companies. The largest modular company in LA that has more construction than anyone in the state of California, we're doing their work. They don't have their factory set up yet, okay? And then the last one we have is that developers are interested in speed. Did I say speed? They're interested in getting things done quickly, okay? Because carrying costs, all the different things of insurance they have to have, and just to open a building sooner to get a return on their rent earlier, 6 months earlier, makes the project more affordable to them. And this is that company. It's called Solar Impact. They're in Los Angeles, but they're not just a modular company. They're creating this entire company dedicated to community service, to underserved communities. We're happy to work for them. And they're massive. They're funded to the tune of, I think, $1.2 billion or something like that. And these are typical type of projects they're working on. And here's one that we're working on with them right now, which is really a large project. And this is the way a typical project comes in from another architect. They design their building, they put it all together, and they sit down and say, will this work? It's modular. I flipped it. I did this. I did that. I said, yes, 60% of your modules are repeatable. I said, the rest, 40% of the building? I said, it's like having a Maserati and you have wooden tires. You're not leveraging that machine to the max, right? You want to get the entire building, really committed to that. The building, nonetheless, will be beautiful. It will be nice. It's looking like straight out of Miami. Also work on smaller projects, SB9 projects, but these are low-rise projects. They're primarily duplexes. And then we have y'all up here, name and lights. These are the folks we work with, right? This is everyone we work with. These architects. This is the largest architecture firm in the world, largest building architecture firm in the world. They'll be at our factory in about 2 weeks. MyTech, I'm sure you all are familiar with MyTech. They're helping us with our blind connections. We work with Intertech, Whiting, just it's the full gamut. If you're not keeping track of it, you're going to see that most of these large construction companies have quietly opened, okay, a prefab or modular section under their umbrella, usually connected to their design-build division, okay? And if you watch them, you'll know they're doing things in the most efficient manner. So I think that's us. So thank you for listening to us this evening.